Hello and welcome to another How to Research video. My name is Professor Lauren Ball and I put these videos together to help researchers who are earlier in their career, who are doing things for the first time and like a little bit more confidence as they approach new tasks. In today's video, I want to talk about how some people can progress from an MPhil, so a Master of Philosophy, to undertaking a PhD. I'm going to talk about what the difference is between an MPhil and a PhD, why some people find themselves in this situation, and how to best prepare yourself for success. So firstly, what is the difference between an MPhil and a PhD? So an MPhil, or a Master of Philosophy, is seen as still a higher degree in research, certainly here in Australia. It might be different in other countries, but here in Australia it's still seen as a very top degree when it comes to research conduct, but it is not the same as a PhD. So an MPhil will often be slightly narrower in scope and shorter in duration. So it can be anywhere from say 1.5 to 2 years full time, whereas a PhD can be somewhere in the vicinity of 3 or 3.5 to 4 years full time. Some people use an MPhil as a stepping stone to a PhD, and that might be that, say they apply to do a PhD, but a university might say you haven't had enough experience or meet our eligibility criteria to undertake a PhD. However, you are eligible to undertake a Master of Philosophy. In recent years, there has been an increase in the number of people who then take that opportunity to do a Master of Philosophy and either complete before going on to do a PhD, or there is a pathway in order to progress from an MPhil to a PhD without finishing the MPhil. So for example, in the university where I am based, there is a recognised pathway for someone enrolled in an MPhil to upgrade to a PhD after about halfway through the MPhil. And really this is because about half of the MPhil means that you've met the eligibility to commence a PhD. So MPhils and PhDs are similar in that at most universities or research institutes, there is a confirmation or a review that happens at the equivalent of about 12 months into the degree, where you essentially present on what your topic is, your progress to date, and your plans for what you're going to undertake between now and submission. This is the start of when someone in an MPhil may signal that they feel ready and would like to upgrade to a PhD. This can come about for several reasons. It might be that the person always had the PhD in sight and this is the earliest time point that they can signal that they want to do that transition. Or it could simply be that they had planned to do an MPhil, but the amount of work that they are looking to undertake in order to satisfy their research questions is deemed to be quite large and would fulfill the criteria of a PhD. So really the upgrade could be recognising the breadth and scope of the work rightly. So let's talk about the steps involved in upgrading from an MPhil to a PhD. Number one, most importantly, is to openly communicate about your wishes and your intentions. This could mean talking to your supervisor in the first instance, seeking their feedback as to whether they think that the upgrade is feasible and appropriate. When you're having those discussions, you might want to think about whether the upgrade might mean you need to add an additional component to your research or keep the same research but rightly have it reflect that it is at a PhD level. The next step is to communicate this at your progress review or shortly afterwards. You could mention to your chairperson or an advisor or an assessor, whatever is right for the institution where you're at, that you wish to do this and inquire with them as to what the pathway might be. At some places it might mean asking the chairperson to note down in their comments in your progress review that you wish to upgrade to a PhD. At other places it might mean making contact with the grad school, the graduate school, or whichever department is in charge of the enrolment of your higher degree. At my home institution, it involves filling out a form to signal your intention to upgrade to a PhD, demonstrating that you have the support of your advisor or supervisor, as well as the reviewers who were at your progress review or confirmation. And then the graduate school will process this. Please remember that it can take some time for this to happen. This is not a one-day transition. You signal that you wish to upgrade to a PhD, and then pending successful progress of your work, it could be that upon the next enrollment period, say semester or research quarter, then you may be upgraded to PhD level. Please keep in mind that this is not just a simple form and one-day process. Often at many universities, the pathway is that you signal your intent to upgrade, you complete the required paperwork, you demonstrate that you are progressing well with your research, and it's often at the start of a future enrollment period that you will be considered at a PhD. So this could be the next semester or the next research quarter, however your university organises its enrollment. One question that might be asked along the way is whether you have the adequate support in place in order to complete this larger body of work. So it could be checking considerations such as whether you're on a scholarship, whether you have adequate time during your other commitments in order to be conducting work at a PhD level, whether there's any funding that's required in order for the work that you're proposing to undertake. So make sure that you've thought these things through and this is the right decision for you and your circumstances. Overall, this is really becoming a normal process for people wanting to undertake a research higher degree. I've had several students make the progress from an MPhil to a PhD, and really it's part of the process of persistence and perseverance in your research training. Transitioning from an MPhil to a PhD is exciting, but it is a commitment. So make sure you're asking the right questions of yourself and your team and those around you. Good luck for your success.